Hello and welcome to the Idaho Anti-Trafficking Coalition page. I am Jenny Q. It is my distinct honor to be live on this page and share with you something really cool that's happening this weekend. But more importantly, share with you something that is a first coming to the state of Idaho. And to introduce that, I'm going to bring Executive Director of the Coalition on. She's going to talk about it. If you have not met her, this will be a treat for you. Welcome to the show, Jennifer Zielinski.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. I mean, this is awesome what you're doing. And if you can, before we talk about, this weekend, could you share with us what is going on, the new exciting thing that's happening with the coalition?
Yeah, so something that we've been pushing hard for those who've already heard about it, or for those who haven't, we'll just do a brief update.
Sure.
Solace House is, we're planning to open up the first safe house for minor victims here in the Boise area, probably about March or April 2019. And so what we've been doing is surrounding a lot of our efforts, especially fundraising, but definitely awareness and education around launching the house. And one of the best things about the coalition being a newer organization is that it is truly a grassroots effort. And so by honoring that, we've been pushing for the community, even expanding outside of the Treasure Valley and just statewide, to really encourage people to invest in it, be part of this monumental time where we are launching the first safe house in Idaho. And by doing that, it creates a movement that allows everyone and anyone to participate or get involved however they see fit.
That's great. Can you tell us a little bit about what a safe house is? Like what purpose does it serve? Who does it serve? And why is it so different than other like shelters that we have in the area?
What makes safe housing unique is a couple of things. First and foremost, we're trying to remove the punitive process that most victims go through, especially through the process of identifying them. Oftentimes they're housed in jail, in corrections, don't have placements, especially emergency placements, which creates a reluctancy within the systems and our programs statewide to even identify victims of sex trafficking. So removing the punitive process first and foremost, where Solace House can be a direct referral or a reference for any of the state or local agencies. And by placing them within an emergency placement, we then can evaluate and assess and truly identify whether or not they're a victim of sex trafficking. And then by doing that through the trauma-informed and mental health evaluation process, we're able to identify further needs. And so by meeting the criteria of Solace House, we would then make the recommendation that they can stay in our program. And our program allows for individuals to stay for up to 2 years, which believe in truly investing in a process of healing and restoration and then rehabilitation. And that way, once they're ready to exit the program, we'll be able to do the transition process into either independent living or back home with their family, but really into the community through that process of learning how to restructure and relive.
Wow, that's powerful stuff. I want to just break for just a second and welcome our live viewers. I see we have viewers. I don't know who's watching. I can't give you a shout out unless you leave a comment. So go ahead and leave a comment. Share with us where you're watching from. And, I'll come back and make sure to say hello to you. And if you have any questions for Jennifer about the coalition, about the safe house, or about the event that's coming up this weekend, go ahead and type those and I'll make sure and swing back through and get those answered. And so, Jennifer, you and I had an opportunity to sit down with one of your volunteers last week, Cresta, who is just amazing. And I have to be perfectly honest, and I don't think I'm alone in this. I was completely ignorant to the gravity of the trafficking problem right here in our hometown, in our home state. Can you give us a few of the statistics of what we're facing? Because to be honest, I thought it was something that was happening in the big cities. I thought it was something that was happening on the other side of the world. And I you tell me. I don't know if I'm alone on that or not. But what are some of the stats?
Yeah, so that's probably the first response that we get from people, especially in our efforts to create education and awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So we're really challenging the community to expand on this dialogue, do your research, and keep this topic on the table, remove the stigma. But to answer your question, we don't have very specific data regarding Idaho and trafficking. We can suspect, and a lot of our programs can maybe potentially identify, but we absolutely don't know the magnitude. We can
Okay.
say that every single program and system that comes in contact with victims will tell you firsthand that they've experienced it and they're seeing an increase, especially as we are creating the awareness. We know that in some parts of the state, 1 in 8 at-risk youth are either prime targets or have already been victims of sex trafficking. We know that in Idaho, one of the very unique ways that trafficking happens is within the family structure. And
Mm.
so familial trafficking is really a cultural thing in Idaho, and it can be due to extreme poverty, can be due to maybe supporting substance abuse habits, or it can just simply be the culture of the family dynamic, maybe generational, which can also create kind of incestual processes. And so we have to really look at the culture of where the individual is coming from. And then by doing that, we're really challenging all of our systems statewide to assess and evaluate so that we can start collecting accurate data, and then we'll share that data. And by doing that, we'll actually be able to see who is it that we are serving, and especially within pockets of the state, where is it dominating,
Mm-hmm.
the culture, are individuals coming in and out, and or they live here, those types of things. So these are all things we're trying to capture. We're really trying to capture a statewide effort to bring unity to the identification process.
Yeah, I want to just break for just a second, Jennifer. You said it was a statewide thing, and it's cool because the comments are coming from all over the state. So you're currently broadcasting from Eagle, Idaho, right?
I am, yes.
And I'm in Meridian, Idaho, and we have Joy who's watching from Caldwell, Idaho. Cresta is here, and Alfreda Brown, so she's also watching from Caldwell. And then we have R.M. Avila watching from Pocatello. And Joy says familial trafficking is one of the hardest topics to talk about, I think, as far as trafficking in our area goes. Yeah, for sure. And I think, Jennifer, I'd love to know what you see in your role as executive director. How much can people really take talking about this? Because it's really, it's, I don't even know the word. I don't even know the word.
A couple of things. So it's almost twofold. So one thing, it's been well received as far as a movement. So that hasn't been difficult. Buy-in has not been difficult. And I think the state's ready to really move forward with us and really launch this movement. So that in itself has been a huge blessing. What's difficult is the topic itself, or envisioning, picturing. And so I think most people who avoid this topic really just don't realize that they're not exempt from this issue. This may be a loved one, it may be a friend of a friend, it may be a neighbor, it may be someone up the street. But I truly believe that when we do have these conversations just about children in general, every single child should be everyone's responsibility. And so as our community and statewide efforts, really challenging people to jump on board, recognizing that all of our kids matter. And if it's not something that we've experienced personally, and we don't have a personal story, it's still valuable. It's still something that needs to be addressed, and it needs to shut down. And we also need to realize that our kids grow up to be adults. And so as far as this massive movement to end child trafficking, which of course that is primary, but our children grow up, and so we have to realize and remember that our adults are equally as important. And so by truly addressing the needs for any victim of trafficking, and any gender, so whether they're male or female, whatever they identify as, we have to open our hearts and these efforts, and really just be accepting, but also become aware and get involved.
Yes, and I love that the coalition has so many different levels for people to become involved. The thing that got me really excited, once I was aware after talking to you of the magnitude of this problem locally, the thing that got me really excited is that what you're doing is solution based. We can get so deep into the problem, and then there's not an action to follow it up with solution. And so that's what I see the coalition doing, is let's move forward with a solution. And the first step in the solution is the Solace House for minors. And you also have another side to that, which is the outpatient care.
Right.
Can you talk about that for a moment?
Yeah. So as we're kind of building this model, we're learning a lot. And what we've learned first and foremost is that Solace House is critical. And when I came into this position, I honored the feedback, especially from those existing coalition members who were meeting prior to my coming onto this. And so by honoring that, there was an original goal set that we would create the first safe house. And by doing that, I also analyzed and realized that we would be meeting the needs of a certain population. And so Solace House will be able to house up to 10 girls, so anywhere from 5 to 10 girls. But then it occurred to me, what if there's 15? What if there's 20? And it's a big project. And so recognizing that these homes like Solace House don't just get to pop up, they're massive investments. And so something that I thought we could do, which is a typical model for providers, is to allow for outpatient services. And by doing that, we would then be able to serve the community as a whole, whether they're children, whether they're adults, male or female, and we wouldn't isolate anybody. And then by doing that, we're also identifying the need. And so we'll be contracting with clinicians, and they'll be providing the trauma-informed care and the counseling and so on. And also providing a lot of family interventions and really wrapping around the entire family, creating a sense of support and giving the appropriate skills to be successful. So we'll be able to utilize the outpatient services for the girls in Solace House as well. And then our next goal would be to expand on that and open an adult house. So that, especially those who are transitioning from the Solace House out and maybe they're not ready, we would have a second spot for them, so within a transition house. And then for those adults who are really in need of emergency housing or placement, or a place for restoration, skill building, some job skill coaching